If you're like me, a person who loves best sound and is a gamer, you probably noticed that everyone is reviewing graphics, performance, all that engine stuff, but for some reason sound is often overlooked. Why? Visual and physical things tickles your amygdala for sure, but sound does too, and sound is very important. When there's the lightning, we expect thunder right after. See, it's not always about the graphics. Developers, not all though, put lots of work on sound and it's just left behind the word which is kinda unfair to sound designers, and that's why I'm here for. We'll appreciate those guys who sit there in studios with lots of wires and equipment and create those soundscapes we later treat as a good atmosphere. And we even insult them by playing the game through laptop speakers. In this episode we'll sound check the game that has caused psychosis all over the globe and is connected to number 3 and is made by Valve. Wish you guys big doses of hopium and copium, it will come. Soon, I believe. Valve licensed the EAX 2 engine. As you know, Quake 2 was based on it. They hacked it and created GoldSrc for their soon-to-be revolutionary game. Valve introduced lots of improvements over the sound subsystem, and all this was done by a single man, Kelly Bailey.
Basically everything that you hear coming out of the speaker is kind of my fault.
The sound engineer at Valve back in the days of Half-Life 1 development. What Kelly did was game-changing. He introduced a DSP system which wasn't there before. He also doubled engine's mixing channels from 16 to 32, which allowed him to put more sound events to play at once. That, of course, burdened the potato CPUs and tiny amounts of RAM of that time with massive load. And they needed to do something about that. They destroyed the quality of a big portion of the sound files and left mainly guns to sound good.
I'd like to get my hands on the guy responsible for this mess.
Quake 2 had better quality sounds, but sounded empty most of the time. It had simple overlapping background noises, and often there was a complete silence in between them. It was okay, but kinda felt off. Half-Life, on the other hand, sounded worse, almost like a DOS game, but full and atmospheric. There was one more reason why dialogue files sounded bad though. GoldSrc already had a basic lip-sync system. Engine tracked the waveform of the event-tied NPC, and if there was an amplitude present, the lips moved. All dialogue events had to be stored as 8-bit 11 kHz mono wave files, because that's the audio format Engine reacts to. When Gordon arrives at his daily job with the tram, the guard comes to open the door for him. Watch closely.
Morning, Mr. Freeman. Looks like you're running late.
The console beeps were tied to the guard. A funny bug never fixed because it wasn't really a bug. It was simply a limitation of the engine. You can still see this thing in Steam version of the game. What else do we remember? Those strange reverbs in some areas. Let's take this one. You should have noticed it. That was the DSP at work. Processing every sound with short reverberation. That means sound subsystem doesn't play pre-made samples, it was processing audio live. This achieves consistency, and all the sound is affected by an effect applied to the scene. Oh yes, more interesting stuff. As soon as you step into the chamber after the tram ride, the audio engine does something subtle. It delays one channel by about 10 milliseconds. Let's look at the waveform. Yep, right here. Let's measure, and we have 10 milliseconds. Now let's measure the distance between peaks. And yeah, we have a clear 10 millisecond delay.
Hey, Mr. Freeman.
Let's collapse it to mono.
Hey, Mr. Freeman. I had a bunch of messages for you, but we...
Now let's bring stereo back.
Hey, Mr. Freeman. I had a bunch of messages for you, but we had a...
This is a classical psychoacoustic trick. A tiny delay creates spaciousness without adding reverb. In real life, this phenomenon is known as the Haas effect. Basically, if sound reaches each of your ears within 40 milliseconds, brain takes first arrived sound as information, and the later one for detecting direction and understanding space around you. Now, Kelly played with Haas effect almost through all the game with semi-open spaces. It worked and required no additional resources.
My fault.
Half-Life 1 supported Aureal A3D, which was really good in 3D positional audio and occlusion. It's like RTX right now, just for sound. Instead of rays, it simulates the sound waves bouncing from the walls. Check it out, make sure you wear your headphones. To experience this, all you needed was a discrete Aureal sound card, which did all the calculations. Also, there was EAX, environmental audio extensions, that was really good in rendering effects. They sounded more natural, and all the sound processing again happened inside discrete creative sound cards, which was really popular back then. Nowadays, all the sound tricks are being done by CPU with the help of software, which isn't as romantic as to have this dedicated huge creative sound blaster card. Imagine if they existed nowadays with RGB lights, sacked together with your graphics card. One more thing to flex with. In Half-Life, primitive dynamic soundtrack was used with the scripted triggers at certain areas. Player cross the trigger 5, play song 7. That's why seamlessly the action music starts when there's a fight. The soundtrack itself was done by Kelly Bailey too, and this is where he excelled again. His score is really late 90s, sci-fi, industrial, ambient and experimental, carefully crafted to match every Half-Life scene. It was some heat towards Kelly as he was using zero-G sample libraries. Well, personally I don't find that bad, because sampling was a mainstream thing since late 70s among the hip-hop DJs and later in electronic music from likes of The Prodigy. Everything's fine until it's all legal. Nobody can forbid you to play piano and sell your music because Cristofori played it 300 years ago. Zero-G libraries were exactly meant to be reused in movies, games and so on. Basically, sound must perfectly describe the environment of each place you visit, otherwise the entire scene will not convince you. Half-Life is known for the good atmosphere, that's because visual and sound designer nailed everything perfectly together. The announcements of the Vox, the iconic Black Mesa PA system, heavy machinery ambience, space soundscapes of Zen and ambient soundtrack all matches scenes perfectly. Then there's the HEV suit, constantly reporting health and energy and what it pumps into Gordon's body. Now, when your condition is really bad, the HEV suit announces this with different intonation.
Emergency. User death imminent.
That makes you feel anxious and cautious. When you walk through Black Mesa's corridors, you hear enemies reporting their status, aliens idling somewhere. Game gives you warning of their presence. That was also a thing in Quake 2, which I liked. And of course, triple tentacle boss smashing the rocket launch silo catwalks who actually reacting to the noise you make. I learned this only in my, 6th playthrough. All of this is a living world around you, and it's surprising how much sound adds to this. As we are spoiled with high-resolution sound nowadays, back in '98 this game with all the technological limitations was something revolutionary. Valve became famous for pushing boundaries, and to this day Half-Life's audio design remains legendary. I can't even imagine what they'll show us with the Half-Life 3. I still remember my first playthrough when I was a kid with my yellowish PC but with creative Sound Blaster card. It was insane. Now it's all done with software more or less in Steam version. So yeah, final thoughts. You cannot play this game with bad sound equipment or with the sound muted. That's an insult to Valve, please don't do this. See you in the next video where we'll take a here at Half-Life 2, what they introduced with their new engine 6 years after. Also leave a comment below if you found something interesting that I missed in Half-Life 1. And if you like this video, you know how to express the appreciations. Click that like and subscribe buttons. See you!
And have a very safe and productive day.
Are you sure you checked the Eigen attenuators? Shut up.